Well, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Coaching Done Well. Jim Thompson, how are you doing today, sir?
Well, good, Shane. I'm looking out the window here in Western New York. I don't know about these centigrade scales. I probably ought to learn how to flip this around, but right now it's 22 degrees Fahrenheit and it feels like 17 above. So for all you international listeners, that's darn cold. So we're out here in Western New York, but we got a warm conversation ahead of us. We're looking so forward to that, Shane.
Look who has just joined us in this call. Hi, my goodness me. I'm so excited. Welcome to our guest. Let's just get straight into it to introduce. So this is Coaching Done Well. And for anyone who's joining us new, so me and Jim, we get together every few weeks and we chat with brilliant people from around the world on what coaching looks like, what Coaching Done Well specifically looks like too. We are live streaming on LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you are joining us there, please say hi in the chat. We'd love to get your questions, your thoughts as we go through, bring them in. But many people are also joining us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you are listening back to the recording, it is an absolute joy to have you here. I wonder if we can just pass around the room about three superstars we've got with us, maybe starting with Rachel, then Trista and Jasen. Maybe give us just a little bit of a flavor of who you are and what you're up to at the minute.
Oh, okay. So I'm Rachel Lofthouse, and I am hopefully a good friend to Jason and Trista. So it's really good to be with them today. We are co-authors of a book, and we'll share some of the thinking behind that book with you. Currently, I am retired from my academic education role. I am officially Emeritus Professor of Education at Leeds Beckett University, but more importantly now, actually, I'm a funeral celebrant. And this afternoon, I have to go and conduct a funeral. So, yeah, my life has changed in the last few years, or yeah, certainly the last few years, but an awful lot of what I learned about coaching is making a reappearance in my role as a celebrant.
What a change. Thank you for joining us, Rachel. Trista.
Hi, everyone. I'm Trista Hollweck. Also living in some cold weather like Jim talked about. It's truly a North American experience to speak about the weather first. So I'm here in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and definitely a friend to Rachel and Jason. And I work at the University of Ottawa teaching a course on coaching and mentoring in professional contexts. And I do research and also supporting school districts and provinces thinking about how coaching and mentoring might be integrated into school systems. And I'm really interested in systems thinking and thinking about coaching done well can't be done unless we think about the context within which the coaching is being implemented. And I'm really, really proud of this book that we get to talk about today because I think it really begins to unpack how we see coaching done well in so many global spaces and how the power it has for educators, leaders, and school systems. So I'm really excited for this conversation. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Trista, sharing in your excitement. And Jason.
Hi. I'm Jasen Booton, and I live in for the majority of the time I live in the UK, and it's grey. That's all I can say. It's grey, but I'm excited to say that actually in January it is 30 years that I have been in primary school or elementary school education. And so in January, that was when I first started teaching, and I've been in all sorts of roles and guises. And most recently, I've been working in Tonga, in the South Pacific, working with the Ministry of Education to co-construct the primary school curriculum. And I've just returned from the final visit. So at the moment, I'm doing lots of editing and polishing, but I'm really, really pleased to be here. And Rachel and Trista are my coaching buddies, but very much thinking partners. So yeah, great to be here.
Well, I love that. My goodness, what an international crowd we are. It's from Shanghai all the way across, right across the world. It's really, really wonderful to have you here, and really excited to dig in today to this, which has also made it to my little home in Shanghai, and I'm very, very excited to behold it. Look at this! Someone get a screenshot. It's great. Coaching with purpose. Jim Thompson, what is on your mind at the minute?
Well, I'm just tickled pink to have this great crowd here, and I want to say seriously, we're all proud collective ed fellows, and thank you, Rachel, for that. You not only are a pioneer, but you're a trailblazer internationally, and one of the things when I talk to people internationally, I'm so proud to say that I am a collective ed fellow. And I mean that, and we're all there today, and thank you so much. And we've got this great book that we're going to celebrate today, Coaching with a Purpose, Learning Encounters for Educational Change. And I want to personally thank the authors for incorporating the work of me and my colleague, Dr. Casey Kazork, who's also a collective ed fellow, with our 15 years of work inviting teachers to look at their practice with video and then partner with a coach. Thank you for incorporating that. It's a real honor for us. So I forecasted my first question to you all, but so I'm going to start out with Rachel because she's that pioneer. Maybe then we'll go to Tristan and then Jasen on this. But so the first question is we always ask about our why. So why write this book and why write it now? So Rachel, could we ask your thoughts on that? And then Tristan and Jasen help us out with that.
Hey, I think what Trista said a minute ago is really important, actually. It's that recognition that we have this tool, this practice of coaching that is reasonably well adopted and sometimes adapted around the world, and often now used in education settings. But as a tool, it needs to be understood in context. And it needs to be understood in the context of of that very wide range of educational institutions and settings in which it is practiced, within each jurisdiction, because we all work with a different set of opportunities and pressures according to where our education practice sits, and also with a particular point in time. And you asked why now. I guess why now, just like Jasen said, he's 30 years into his education career. For me, I was 34 years in, I think, when the book was published. And Trista's many years in as well. And between us, we've seen a lot, done a lot, and worked in coaching consistently for decades. And we wanted to draw together our own insights, expertise, concerns and ambitions for coaching, but also that same set of insights and expertise from a wide group of people with whom we'd been privileged enough to connect through collective ed. So it became a book which definitely emerged over time, as opposed to be fully fledged and planned, with an empty page, just, from scratch. It definitely took time to evolve. But I think by the time we finished it, we felt that it was very timely. Of this surge in the practice of coaching and this need to understand it with a bit more nuance, perhaps, than some people do if they're new into the world of coaching.
That's lovely. Trista, what's on your mind with this?
I think I always start with saying, it's kind of a love letter to collective ed. And I find that interesting that we are all have mentioned collective ed already. And I love that I feel like I'm the youth in this group with only 26 years in education here. Rachel's right. It's around trying to capture some of what we've learned. We've all been working in coaching for a long time now. And for me, it's also the book I wish I'd had. I remember we were starting to write it. It was really about the idea of there's something that would help me if I was new to this context. So for me, I was developing and coordinating a coaching program for a systems and thinking about, well, where do you start? There are just so many fabulous books out there on coaching, the how-tos and some different ideas around coaching. But I really was interested also in sort of the theories behind coaching, the history of coaching. How does it fit into the field? How can I create and see something that is accompanying others. And then I can make choices around the different types of coaching that interest me. And so where can you get a place that has all these options? So that's something that was of interest to me. I'm hearing something really loud. Is that
Get like a train or something, maybe the Polar Express going through. I don't know.
that's better?
Jason, what's on your mind with this first question?
Yeah, I mean, trying to sort of not repeat, but I've got to say that there's that expression, everybody has one book in them, you know, and so I did have something to prove to myself that that I could write and communicate something that I suppose concisely and clearly. But I think for me it was a great opportunity, because for those who aren't aware of collective ed, collective ed is an international community of people who are interested in professional learning, coach through coaching and sort of mentoring. And anyway, for me, the book allowed us to really get the stories of many, many different people, sort of, in different sort of contexts, and to be able to sense make. So it's not a guide, because there are a lot of guides out there. And for me, selfishly, it's my alternative PhD. It took 3 years. It wasn't, the three of us met regularly to sense make. We had ethical approval through the university of which Leeds Beckett, which Sir Rachel, is professor, and we went through a process of case studies, qualitative sort of research and sort of interviews and then thematic analysis. So I got to say is I mean I haven't got a but I kind of feel that I've contributed to the field. So that's what I would say is on my mind, Jim.
I'm happy to call you Dr. Jason anytime. Well, I love that. Let me ask another question of you all, and then after you respond, we'll get Shane in for some reflections here. A few months back, we hosted Chris Monroe and John Campbell to share their work in Growth Talk, a coaching way of leading in schools. And in that book, the authors describe conversations as the currency of school life. 4 functions of growth talk conversations, including sense making, which you refer to, and your book has, and throughout the DNA, learning, experimentation, and progress. And Jim Knight adds that how we talk to one another and the quality of our conversations are important drivers of student, educator, and student success. In your book, you include such chapters as coaching as a way of developing purposeful conversational spaces and coaching as a way of enabling and empowering others. Could you share with us what the secret sauce might be to quality coaching conversations that advance student success and well-being, and at the same time giving the coachee a place to do their best thinking? Well, could we go in reverse order now? Jason, can I start with you, and then we'll go to Trista and have Rachel wind up with the response to that before we shift to Shane? What's your thoughts on that, on coaching conversations, Jason?
Yeah, it sounds obvious, doesn't it? That we learn through talk, but it's. I think that in coaching, it's really a conscious. It requires a conscious effort as the coach. It's not just listening, as I often used to say, listening to understand. It's listening to affirm. It's listening to appreciate. And my work in Tonga, what I realized was that actually, I'm not Tongan. I don't understand how Tongans think. So, but I can try to appreciate, I can try to appreciate sort of, what people think, sort of feel, and support them to gain clarity and energy. So I'm not going to say too much because I want to leave space for some other people. But I think that for me, you got to feel well held. And it's got to be a conversation where it's beyond the ego. So those are some key sort of principles for me in conversations that are coaching.
Well, thank you for that. Trista, what's on your mind about that secret sauce for coaching conversations?
So I think when I'm listening to Jasen, that idea of the listening is a key element. It's conversations. It's conversations in schools. We're having conversations with our students. We're having conversations with our colleagues. As leaders, we're having conversations with our staff. We're having conversations as districts. We're having conversations with the families and the other community partners. So it's ultimately around conversations. I think going and learning around coaching skills, what I learned the most is how I had never really thought about conversations in a deep way. We're so used to having conversations, but we don't think about the power of the skills we bring to that. So that listening that Jasen highlighted, the asking of questions, the really listening to understand. And of course, we don't always share the same context, but we're trying to think about what a person is saying and being curious about that, and thinking about how we interact all the time through coaching. And to me, the secret sauce in coaching is stepping back, thinking about how we work with another person, whoever it is that we have as our coachee, and the skills that we bring to the conversation. Those questions are so important. And providing a time to think together. Jasen used the term thinking partners, and I think that's such an important one, is that an opportunity to think. And so all the conversations, the coaching conversations that I have with principals or with teachers, consultants, it's really around time to think and how grateful it is to have space and time. So I think that's the secret sauce. We're providing space to think together in a non-judgmental way. It's always non-judgmental. The goal, and we talk about this in the book around how we think about the definition is this conversation, but it's leading to positive change. So there's something that's happening when a person leaves a coaching conversation. There's an energy, there's a momentum, there's a feeling that there's something that has been uncovered or explored or reflected on, and that you're leaving better than when you entered. So better can be looked at a lot of different ways, but that is the secret sauce, that connection with another human. And again, to me, we're in a social business, so it's all around the connections. So how do we strengthen the connections that we have between one another, and the power of that for then students when the adults are doing that and we're learning how to have really powerful conversations. We can be teaching and modeling and supporting students to have powerful conversations. And then that's the humanity of the work we do in education. So I'll leave it there, but that to me is a secret sauce.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Rachel, what's on your mind?
I think the easiest thing for me to do is just find some of the words that are in the book and share them with you, partly because my memory is shocking at the moment. So I'm thinking about when we talked about coaching conversations and learning encounters, and we did deliberately use the term encounters in our title and thread that through as a theme. We talked about a space that's created through conversation, which is productive, but at the same time is building trust and relationships. It's not just about getting a job done at all costs. It's about creating a productive space where we can be safe, feel safe, be challenged, and enable enhanced decision making. So I think those are really important components of coaching. And we also talked about coaching as co-constructive. So it's something which happens in the moment between usually two people, a coach and a coachee. It can be done in triads as well, occasionally, or sometimes in peer groups. But it is deliberately co-constructive. So it is dependent on the people in the room at that time. And it's dependent on that space that is being created being considerate of everybody. So that sense of how are people managing their anticipation, their anxiety, their emotions in that space, because teaching is, or leading in education and teaching are emotional roles. So a co-constructive and considerate space. And we talked about coaching as a space in which participants should always be assured of care and confidentiality as far as is possible. That doesn't mean that if there's a safeguarding issue, we don't raise that concern. We don't keep secrets that might be risky, but we do assure people that in this conversation, you are safe to say what you think and want to say, and you've got an eager, willing, curious listener in your coach. And we talked about coaching being relational at heart and coaches relying on having an understanding of the person and the context and having the capacity to create a sense of belonging and purpose in order for learning to follow. And that learning potentially leading to change. With that, as Trista said, that goal of creating positive opportunities for change as an outcome of coaching.
Powerful. Shane, I love this so far. Shane, what's on your mind after hearing all this so far?
Oh, so much on my mind right now. Like I'm hearing these wonderful themes coming through, the themes of listening, the theme of creating that space to think, the theme of relationships or togetherness with the coachee. These are just really powerful. I always know I'm in a really good conversation when I know, thank God we're recording, because I can go back to listen to this again. And this is one of those that I'm thinking of that. I know people are also really enjoying listening into this online as well. So welcome, Andrea, Chris. We've got Corin on the line. It's really, really good to have you here with us. I'm really curious, actually, that you mentioned, I think it was Jason, you said this is not really like a guide as a book. But I'm interested because although it's not a guide, you've got a rallying call to action. So I would love to kind of hear in your words, what is that call you are making? Maybe we start Trista, then Jason, then Rachel.
You're right, Shane. We didn't really hide it, did we? We actually, I think we started at the beginning and ended with this idea that, we do have some views on coaching done well. We do have some concerns about implementation. And so what is so common in education is great stuff happening somewhere. You sort of take and implement without considering context. And then it doesn't work perhaps. And we hear that it's the issue, it's the initiative, it's coaching that doesn't work, not necessarily how it was introduced and implemented and supported. We also think this work is so important. And in a current situation with budget cuts, professional learning is on the discussion line. Maybe I can speak from a Canadian context only. But it's right now, it's worrisome. Really amazing programs this coaching takes time. It takes resources, it takes vision, it takes serious support, not only for the coachee, but coaches need to be supported. They need ongoing and differentiated professional development. We need systems that support this work. We need time. Like, it can't be another thing that's added to people's schedule and expected to just happen. So I think we do have a viewpoint that says, we need to pay attention to this. If we believe in the humans of our system, then we need to support them, and we need to think really carefully and strategically and support these processes. And so that's our rallying cry, is that, you see something working really well. It's not just about simply introducing it and hoping for the best. We need to be strategic, and we need to also think about where it's coming from and what is the aim? What's the purpose? We use purpose very clearly in our title. Know your purpose. Make sure the purpose is shared across all the members who are doing the coaching. Do we have a shared understanding of the purpose? And we can also have individual senses of purpose, but that is the driver. Who's having these conversations, and how do you do that? So that's it for me.
I love that. I wonder, Jason, Rachel, do you have anything to add to that? Or are you like, as Trista taking the words right out of your mouth?
Well, you always get something really impassioned from Trista, so that is something you can rely upon. So we have the energy there. Yeah, I think that for me, when you have a call to action, I think my daughter's actually studying social psychology. And so I'm not saying I understand this sort of in depth, but my take on it is that in social psychology, it is how the individual shapes the group and how the group shapes the individual. And for me, that kind of speaks to activism, because you can't have a movement with one person. And so for me, I was really, really interested in researching the concept of purpose for this book. And one of those things which I'm sure will ring true with you, Shane, with the book that you've written on changes, is that in education, you know, I've worked in so many schools and supported so many schools where people have actually achieved the goals. They've achieved the ambition, the vision, but they all hated the journey. It was so accountable. It was so high stakes, you know, but they got there. But as soon as they could leave, they did. And for me, this idea of sustained change aligns with a collective sense of purpose. And when you have your values that are lived and not laminated, and that's a quote straight from the book from Mark Stacey, who's in Malaysia. When you live those values and you have your collective, you have your community of thinking partners whose collective sense of purpose is shaped by values that you're living, well, you know, you are actually going to enjoy the process of change, and you're going to stick at it because you've got wind in your sails, you know? That's what I have to comment.
Sure, please
Yeah.
do.
I was just thinking, building on what Jason and Trista said about this notion of the call to action. And we talk about being advocates for coaching if it's done well. I mean, it's cliche, but exactly that. And I was thinking very much about this global community of teachers, that we need good teachers in every single corner of the globe. And we need to keep being good teachers, or we hand ourselves over to AI. Okay, we have to actually be better than AI. And we cannot expect to have that global community of teachers and for all of them to feel or act like clones. They all have to bring their own unique qualities and skills and personalities to the job, and passions and enthusiasms and failures. There will be days when they are not the best teacher in the world, but they need to be trusted to constantly be working at the edge of wanting to keep being great. And I think coaching is one of those practices which actually enables us to enable others to find their niche and use their talents. And we all need to,
Amen.
if you like, sit in a different niche in a complex education system. And we all need to have our talents respected and harnessed and made the best of. And coaching is a great tool for that. Probably the best that I know. And if we want this global population of teachers to thrive, then that's a good way of thinking about it.
I love it. Just to kind of resonate that in order to advance this, there's the word buy-in, and Michael Bungay Stanier, and one of his great questions, what's the most challenging thing for you right now? And one of the challenges advancing coaching, at least in the United States with our crazy politics, is to get real buy-in. And let me refer to my esteemed colleague, Shane Leaning's work, give him his great book, A Plug, with this idea of buy-in. He talks about that buy-in for us, buy-in is not about persuading people, but about creating a vision that resonates with them. Folks, how do we best advance buy-in with coaching? By sharing a vision that resonates. So, Jason, can I start out with you on that, and then we'll go to Rachel and go back to Trista? How do we generate a vision that resonates to get buy-in for this marvelous idea?
Yeah, again, I go back to that collective sense of purpose. So in researching the concept of purpose for sort of the book, I was very sort of mindful that if you want people to make progress, so actually, coaching, I think we recognize that that a coaching conversation is listening. It supports clarity, but also coaching should support an action. So there should be clear thinking about something that can be done to support your vision, your goals. But I would say that in the three of us in our sense making, we looked at purpose in two ways. We looked at, so let's say, a purpose which is future focused. So you could say that a vision is the ultimate sort of purpose, but actually, also there are valuable conversations about what you care about, what gets you up in the morning, what you value, how your values align with your sense of purpose to give you that traction and then that momentum. And so for me, the buy-in is, and you might frame this in different ways, what gets you up in the morning, what shines light in your life, what gives you wind in your sails. But actually, the buy-in is, Jim, what do you really care about, to the point that you're going to do something about it?
Thank you.
And I think that that's important.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's go to Trista or Rachel next, and go ahead.
Me? So I'm going to be really practical, and I'm just going to suggest that one of the regular concerns of those working in the education system is overload and overwhelm, in terms of the number of jobs they've got to get done in a week, the number of classes they've got to teach, the number of initiatives that they're dealing with at the same time. And so I don't think you ever get buy-in for coaching if it just lays on top of all of those things. It can't just be, well, the school down the road is using coaching, we better bring that in. It can't just be, well, in my previous school as a middle leader, I thought coaching was the bee's knees. And now as a senior leader, I'm going to take that and roll it out. I think if we're being highly practical, and it does relate to Jasen's point about purpose, we think about coaching as this opportunity to really expand the space, to fulfill the ambition we already have for our school, for our learners, for each other. And if our school is working, let's take a very simple thing around trying to enhance literacy across the curriculum and literacy outcomes for the students, then actually let's look at how coaching can help that pedagogic practice and better outcome. Let's not think, right, well, the literacy is going on a Tuesday and the coaching is going on a Thursday, and the teachers have just got to get on with both. We use it strategically. And I think Trista's already used the word strategic, but it's got to be practical if you're going to get buy-in.
Amen. Amen. Trista, what's on your mind on that question?
Well, I just want to build on what both Rachel and Jasen are saying, but really, when we look at the nesting, interacting coaching context that we share using Bronfenbrenner's analysis and framework, which we put in the book, is the idea of you can't look at coaching as an initiative separate, what Rachel was just highlighting. So how is it integrated? And we use the term terroir. So we're thinking about what is the geography, the context of your own space. That's really important to think about. So when I'm thinking about buy-in, it's been my experience that it's not hard to get buy-in by individuals, by coach and coachees, people who are coaching. I think it's an opportunity to grow the top, to actually work with experienced teachers and give them a new way of working and thinking. And so, when I was doing my PhD, I was really looking at why would people take on this role on top of their busy workload? They got something from it. It's around engagement. It was around purpose. It was around learning new skills, how to work with adults. They knew how to work with their youth and the children in their care, but working with an adult to bring out this professional learning was really powerful. So it's been my experience that the individual is not an issue when it comes to buy-in, because you do gain skills that you can use in your personal life as well. Like having great conversations also comes to having great conversations with your children, with your colleagues, your parents-in-law, so it's very useful skills. The challenge is, and I think Rachel was really highlighting it, is buy-in at the top. So it needs to be supported. It needs to be placed in a context that makes sense. It needs to be supported. It can't be just another add-on. It needs to be integrated through the system. So we really need the leadership of schools and systems to be thinking about what it is. And then my question is always well, what if it if it's not there, what's the alternative?
Mhm.
So right now, look at our school systems and retention issues for teachers, well-being issues are highlighted often. Academics is, I believe, well teachers lead to well students, meaning
Yes.
successful teachers lead to successful students. So
Yes.
what are we doing to support our teachers? When we have professional learning that's one-off, we know that they have sparks of moments, but the continuity and sustainability of those initiatives is not there. We know coaching does provide these growth and sustained work. So it's the buy-in is around helping system leaders and school leaders have a sense of shared purpose, see what's possible, understand how it fits into the system, and then you really need to track it. So buy-in means we need to see what's the return on investment, to be really pragmatic for schools and systems. But we also see it happening in business. Coaching is being embedded across many, many different fields. So we are hearing the conversation change about how things are happening in our workplaces, the conversation leaders are having. And often the times thinking about when I was a school leader, I didn't have the learning to know how to have conversations with my colleagues. So getting coaching training and using a coaching approach as a leader, that was really useful. So again, the buy-in can happen if we are really intentional, we're strategic, and we're really pragmatic about how it fits into our system. And I think it's possible when you start seeing the outcome, but you do need to have an investment and it's not immediate. You don't introduce coaching and then a month later you're going to have amazing results. This is over time, and it's having so visionary leaders that are supported. And so we need some sort of intermediary there that's going to support them and provide some of that training for their staff, for them, and modeling it. So that's where I'm landing. Let's go. Let's hit the system leaders and school leaders, and they're doing great work. Let's help them structure it a little bit more.
I got one more question that needs to be asked. I know we're going over time, but this is just such a lovely thing. So with everybody's forgiveness, I want to ask one final question, get your thoughts and Shane's thoughts on this. Our show is purposely and intentionally entitled Coaching Done Well, taken from Dr. Atul Gawande's quote that coaching done well may be the most important intervention designed for human performance. In the epilogue of your book, you write that we continue to advocate for coaching and education because we know at its best it can. And you enumerate a bunch of powerful examples of coaching at its best. Could each of you share a little bit on your mind what you think about the idea of coaching at its best, what it might look like, what it might sound like in your hopes? Have you all respond to that, and then I'll have Shane give his final thoughts. And we can't thank you enough for being here. So, Rachel, you got me into this collective ed. I'm so proud of that. Could you give us some thoughts first on this idea of coaching at its best?
I will, but I'm going to quote somebody else because I think it's really important that we don't assume that in education we have all the expertise. So I'm going to quote a wonderful woman called Catherine Mannix, and we use reference to her work in our book as well. And she happens to be a palliative care doctor and author. This is just a simple thing. You can read into it what you want in relation to coaching, but I think coaching at its best is a journey from an invitation into a conversation of listening and wondering, checking and consolidating, understanding and holding silence, to a place of having listened well or having been heard. And this is an essential part of our human experience. So I think coaching at its best forms what feels like an essential part of a human experience in our setting, in our workplaces.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. It's so powerful. Trista, you're the only one I've met in person. I'm glad at Jim Knight's conferences. I hope all of our paths cross again. What's on your mind about this idea of coaching at its best?
So beautiful, Rachel. I love that. I think when you read the case studies in our book, you see examples of coaching at its best and what it does. Like the stories jump off the page, like that sense of hope, that sense of empowerment, how it's changed a culture. So it's that ripple effect that you see across. And I'm really fortunate because, and I'll shout out to the Western Quebec School Board yet again, which I always do. But, I was just working with coaches and principals and lead school and system leaders over there. And that's 18 years of work that they've been doing around coaching. And you see people who started as coachees who are now mentor coaches and school leaders. And to me, that is a cultural shift. And you can see that it can happen if you are intentional around that. So I'm always so inspired when I leave those conversations that people are talking about the school, the community, the students, and their colleagues. And that's coaching at its best when we have space to do that.
Inspiring. Jasen, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to another collective ed sort of fellow who you mentioned earlier on, Chris Monroe, because Chris years ago said to me that he really felt that a coach should be in service of somebody's thinking. Okay. And then he was challenged by Jim Knight to say, well, don't you think that there should be some action from that thinking, Chris? And so from that, it then sort of developed into in service of thinking and progress. And actually, in conversation with Chris, who again is a thinking partner for me in coaching, is I think that coaching done well and at its best is when the coach is in service of the person's thinking, purpose, and progress. So they are valuable conversations that lead to purposeful progress.
Powerful. Shane, what are your thoughts on this marvelous conversation?
Hasn't it just been a marvelous, marvelous conversation? You've got me. Well, this is always causes me a problem. I said it before, like it's 9 p.m. here in Shanghai, and now I'm not going to be able to sleep because my mind is racing. You've got me feeling reflective. I'm feeling empowered. I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling hopeful, and I'm just feeling very, very grateful to share this space with you all. So thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing so generously, both in your time today, and in your book. This is just, yeah, whoa, what a treat. How are you feeling, Jim?
Well, I'm an old guy in the tooth. Back in the September 1972. Now you figure how many years that is. September. I don't know what you were doing in September 1972. I can tell you what I was doing. I was a wet behind the ears teacher. Didn't know how to teach. I walked into a school district, taught 7th, 8th, and 12th grade social studies. They gave me the keys to the building, and they said, don't send people to the principal's office until you get tenure. That was my advice. It was very Darwinian, very Darwinian. Thank the good Lord, we've come a ways through that. And we've come because of the trailblazing, the pioneering efforts of Trista, Jasen, and Rachel. And I mean this from the heart. I feel that there is hope. There's a lot of challenge, especially in my country. I won't go there at this moment, but there's a lot. But there is hope. There is hope because of the people like you. So I'm just so gratified to be part of this conversation and to be friends and colleagues with all you folks. Thank you so much.
And that leads us to say thank you as well to people who are tuning in as well. It's been a wonderful conversation, and it's made richer knowing that there's people from around the world tuning in. I know today we've not just had educators joining us listening in, but I can see on the stats, I can see there's some analysts there, there's some engineers even listening in, as well as some leaders in schools. We've got a lot of people with interest in this work. I'm really grateful to share this space. If you are listening to this on the podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, then please come and join us live. We do this live. You can come and find mine and Jim's LinkedIn page, and you'll find the links there so you can join in the conversation. It's really, really great to have you here. And Jim, wow, we have got a big season ahead, haven't we? I'm not going to spoil it for everyone, but we have got some absolutely incredible conversations to come including our next time together, which will be with the brilliant Matt Stone, looking at some of his work in the coaching space. So we're really excited to that. But just to finish today, Trista, Rachel, Jason, Jim, thank you so, so much. This has just been wonderful.
Happy holidays to everybody.
Thanks so much.
Everybody.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks.